Hello and welcome to this Tuts Plus series Tumblr Theming 101. In this video we're going to make a start on our themes code. Now to get started, as I do with every theme, I'm going to cheat and I'm going to use a pre-made starting point or a pre-made HTML file. Now there's a link to this in the description below, and here is the repository on GitHub. Now imagine my imagination ran wild with this name. It's called Tumblr-base. And as it says in the README, it's a really sparse starting point for Tumblr theme development. The code and guidelines are based on my own requirements, and it's unlikely that I will include Tumblr post loops stroke logic, as they are specific to the theme you are creating. So what is the point of this file? This file contains Tumblr theme operators that I feel don't change from theme to theme. Now, this isn't to say that you have to use this file. If you would prefer to use something like the HTML5 boilerplate even, or another Tumblr base, feel free. This is just for me, but I thought I would share it with you for the sake of this tutorial series. So download whatever file you're going to use and keep it somewhere safe. I'm just going to quickly give you an overview of what is contained in the index.html. So here we have it, index.html. I've opened up with my text editor, Sublime 2. And as you can see, like the theme, the default theme that was installed, we have the same sort of markup. So we have our doc type. We have conditions for Internet Explorer 8. We have HTML, and you can see that here there are some blocks. Basically what these blocks will do is they will return two characters relating to whatever language has been set via Tumblr. So if it's an English Tumblr page, it'll be EN, if it's a French FR, etc, etc. Then we have our head. We have our meta tags that rip straight from the HTML5 boilerplate. We then have our title tag and our title variable as per the theme documentation and as per the default Tumblr theme. Underneath this are three blocks. Now, even though a Tumblr theme is a single HTML page, you can actually control or define multiple views. Now, when I speak about, or when I mention a view, what I mean is on Tumblr, your blog has three views. You have the index page, which will list off a certain amount of posts set by you. You have a permalink page, which is an individual link to a post. Now, a permalink page usually contains something like a comment system, and it also usually contains like the amount of likes a post has got, as well as lists of details of the users who like that post. Finally, you have a search page which will display any posts that match a specific search query or criteria. So all I'm doing for the title tag is I'm saying is if it's an index page, if the user is on the index page, return the description for the blog next to the title. If we are on the permalink page, return the post summary, so a post summary according to the documentation. We might as well have a look. Is it under base variables? Yeah. So a post summary identical to the post title, but will automatically generated a summary if a title doesn't exist. So what that will do is it will give us a summary of the post in the page title up here. And then what we're saying here is if it's a search page, then return a string of results for the search query. Again, this is just for the page title. So as we go through, you can see more blocks. So what we're saying here is if the blog has a description, then return the tag named description, and then in turn the content for that will be the meta description. Now again, as per the documentation, meta description, the HTML safe description of your blog. So that will just help with indexing. We carry on going through. We've got some short links, and I'm going to try and pronounce this. Canonical sounds about right. Anyway, I'm really bad at pronouncing stuff, and you'll learn to love that through this series, I promise. Basically, this is stuff for, again, I believe, indexing. And then we have our fave icons. our RSS feed. Again, Tumblr provides us with a favicon variable, and if we go back to the basic variables, the favicon variable will return a URL, a favicon URL for your blog. So just to reiterate about a static HTML page and a Tumblr theme, in a static HTML page, you would probably have something like HTTP. You'd probably have a link to the favicon. Like so. All we're doing is we're telling Tumblr to return the URL to the favicon here. Same with the Apple Touch icon. You would probably link to an image here, whereas we can tell Tumblr just to return the URL to our portrait here. The favicon itself is actually based on your portrait photo, and it is generated by Tumblr. So something to take away through this is try and get Tumblr to do as much of the theme content as possible. I've seen themes where people have been linking to individual favicons in Dropbox folders and stuff like that. Tumblr, as I've learned, can take a massive weight off you as in terms of preparing or storing content, as long as you pay attention to the theme documentation and look for it. There is a lot of good stuff in the Tumblr theme documentation. So if you have a query or you have a question that you want to add something to a theme, check the documentation first to make sure that there isn't a variable already available to actually do that for you. The one thing you probably haven't seen before are these kinds of meta tags. Now, these meta tags relate to customization of a theme, and they are something that we'll go over later on in the series. So don't worry about them for the moment. Now, here's a weird little gotcha. With a Tumblr theme, if you want to use customization options, all your CSS has to be in line. It has to be in the document itself. Because of the way that the Tumblr theme operators are populated, it will not read theme logic that is in a linked file. It has to be in this HTML file. So if you've ever had a Tumblr theme or you bought a custom Tumblr theme, so like, you'll notice that all the theme CSS is actually in the head of the document. And that's so that we can take advantage of the Tumblr theme operators. So what I've included here is a simple reset. Again, if you prefer something like normalize or your own custom reset, feel free. This isn't a series about how to write good HTML or CSS. Now, I will try my best to write it as well as I think I can, but if you disagree with something or you prefer to style or code something a different way, go ahead. The takeaway from this series is for you to understand and utilize theme operators and to get to grips with how to actually create a Tumblr theme. So if we carry on, more CSS, more CSS. We have a variable here called custom CSS, which surprisingly does exactly what it says on the tin. Like most of the variables do, the variable names do, they are very specific. So you can hazard a guess, but I'm going to tell you that custom CSS will allow the user to put in their own CSS, which will override the CSS defined up here. And then finally, we have our body opening tag, and then this is where we'll start coding our actual theme. Underneath this is just some JavaScript related to some functions of the theme, which we'll discuss later on in the series when we do the customization stuff. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to have a look at the design for the theme, and I'm going to roughly work out the markup. And then that way, once I've worked out how I'm going to code this, I can actually start coding the theme. So if we go into Photoshop, the PSD should be linked in the description. And there's a group called Zone Setup. Now, looking at this theme, I see a very clear split. We have this stuff in the left-hand side, and then we have this stuff in the right-hand side. Now, stuff is such an ugly word to use, but I would imagine this as a sidebar or as a HTML5 aside, because this is content that relates to the site but doesn't relate to our actual posts. And then in this area, I would imagine this to be the main area, because this is where all our posts will be. So the way I'm going to code this is I'm going to use the body and then use a border on top for the stripe. And then I'm going to have an aside element with the content relating to the sidebar inside that. And then I'm going to have a main element with the content relating to my posts inside that. So in the next video, we're going to crack on and start coding the aside element or the sidebar. So I hope you enjoyed this video and you will join me in the next one.